debunking the myths surrounding today's economy. My next guest is doing just that in his new book titled The Upside of Inequality: How Good Intentions Undermine the Middle Class. Joining us right now is author and founding partner of Bain Capital, Ed Conard, joining us. Ed, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria.
How is it undermining the middle class?
Oh, I don't think that it does undermine the middle class. I think if you look at the growth rate in the United States, employment has grown 2 to 3 times faster than Europe and Japan. We've grown at incomes that are 15 to 30% higher than those countries, the highest wage economies besides our own. I think one of the myths is that it is responsible for slowing middle and working class wages, when I think, in fact, the opposite is the case. I try to explain both phenomena, why the 1% is growing so fast and why middle class incomes are stagnating.
Tell us why.
I think you can see it in an example. Ford moves its production to Mexico. We just heard that yesterday in the news. And I think economists on both sides of the aisle, left and right, tell them, don't worry, the entrepreneurs are coming. They're going to put you back to work. They're going to compete with each other. They're going to drive your wages right back up to where they were. Don't worry, there's a lot of capital sitting on the sidelines. The interest rate is 0. Capital's not a constraint. You're going to be right back to where you were. But they look and they see that the entrepreneurs moved to California. They outsourced all the blue-collar jobs to China. Meanwhile, the engineers that are left behind in their town are designing products for workers that work in Mexico. And they say, where's the entrepreneur who's coming to put me back to work and to raise my wages? Because the core argument of the book is that today, the binding constraint to growth is properly trained talent and entrepreneurial risk-taking generally. And we're not in the old manufacturing economy where capital and savings are really the constraint to growth, and that's had a big, wide-ranging impact on the economy.
Well, one of the ways to address income inequality, too, is to have the pie grow bigger instead of cut it up into little slices and redistribute that. One of the ways of doing it is free trade. Donald Trump's talking about that, reducing regulation. That should help as well. Are these topics that you touch based on the book, and what about Donald Trump's plan that he laid out yesterday concerning those two things? Yeah,
in the case of corporate taxes, I have the same proposal that he does. That if you don't lower it to 15%, I don't think it's going to have much effect. In the case of trade, I disagree with him in part, but not fully. I think you have to have free trade. You can't make for $20 what you can buy for $2. Same with innovation. You can't make for $20 what you can innovate and make for $2. That's going to kill you in the long run. I think in the case of trade, so you have to have free trade, and I would not be taxing trade as he's proposing, but I think you have to have free but balanced trade. I think it makes no sense to let Germany and China and now Mexico really dump their savings into the United States as opposed to buying goods that would balance trade. When we have no use for their savings, we're not a manufacturing economy. That stuff's sitting on the sidelines unused. And if you don't put that money back to work, you're going to get slower growth, higher unemployment, lower wages.
Services economy.
I think it makes no sense to allow that piece of it, but I think you can restrict that without restricting trade.
You're talking about how entrepreneurs in this economy aren't necessarily creating new businesses, employing lots of manufacturing workers. But we also have a problem of just not enough entrepreneurs, correct? I mean, we certainly see the high-profile ones in Silicon Valley, but in terms of new business creation, this has not been a very strong era for that.
Real quick, Ed.
I think if you divide between the high potential, where we've been very, very successful, and the mom-and-pop donut shop, which I don't mean to take anything away from that, but that piece of it has slowed down and would be valuable.
All right, we will leave it there. Ed, great to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ed Conard, joining us there. Before